This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth at darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing I can do this to you all. Happy World Hypnotism Day.
Oh, nice. Okay, now that is a challenge because, you can hypnotize people in many ways.
I'm sure Allan knows all of them.
Late Night with the Devil. What an awesome movie. Okay, that's on the table. If you've ever been hypnotized, I would like to know. I mean, you can hypnotize yourself just staring at something too long. I mean, I've experienced that. So, but I hope our show today will be hypnotic and informative. So that's a good one.
I also wanted to wish a very happy birthday to Louis Braille, the man who gave us the Braille system.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. So we got a lot on the table. Okay, cool. Very good, Max. And if you want to check out our posts, you can go to @Tool Talk Radio over on Facebook and see the post that we've made. We have our must-have item of the week, and we have in our great moments in building history. I don't know. It's one of these. Once again, Allan. I mean, I'm just full. Let's put our cards on the table. A lot of the ideas for great moments in building history come from the algorithms on YouTube because I'm just minding my own business, and this video popped up that I said, okay, I'm going to click this on, and it was all about the Alhambra Palace in Spain, built in the 13th and 14th century. And what interested me most was the way they had mastered water. I mean, these plumbers,
Yes.
These were the elites, and what they did with that place. And let's face it, this is 700 years later, and their plumbing is still working perfectly. So that's a pretty good warranty.
A bit more than we can say for yours.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we had, I'm sure, so folks, we had this torrential rain last week, and if you were affected by it, this is a good day to get in touch with us and let us know what happened. We were affected in a very minor way, but as we're going to discuss later, for want of a wax ring on a toilet, it could have been a disaster. We had a little minor inconvenience at my house, but as a result of the rain. But I know some people were really affected. We had power outages. We had flash flooding. We had a lot of problems when it rolled through. I think it was last Saturday it came through or something. But we're going to talk about that and water backflow, that type of thing. Let's see. Allan tells me this week that he in his week in review, he was taking down holiday decorations. He was.
No, I said I was undecorating.
He was that's what I said, taking them down, doing New Year's organizing, and doing winter landscape. And somehow he managed to incorporate the use of power tools in all three of those operations. Yes. I don't buy it. Okay,
easily.
Sawzall and a Christmas tree?
Yeah, I mean,
that sounds like the name of a song.
Yeah. That's a good country western Christmas song there. So Sawzall and a Christmas tree. But we'll see. When we get his report. We have a lot on the table. I'm not going to bother. What's the point of we have a a minor lifestyle upgrade for your home as well. We have a tool tales. We've got a lot. Stand by, folks, and just let the program unfold. But before we get to any of those things, let's get to our must-have item of the week. And if you went over to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you saw this item. I believe we've used this one once in the past, but it was relevant for me this week. But go ahead, Allan, and tell people.
Well, I've only got about 6 of those.
Yeah.
It looks like I'm going to guess the 9-inch long magnetic basic level.
Yes, you are correct, sir.
Aha.
It's got the horizontal, vertical, and 45-degree angle leveling system. I can't say I use the 45-degree angle much, but it is cool to have on there, that feature. Do you ever use that?
Oh, I end up using that quite a bit.
For what? Like, what's your... Because I'm just
especially when I'm doing a lot of framing.
Okay, so if you're making that 45...
I'm looking
cut.
for that 45-degree angle. I am indeed.
Okay, well, I was putting up some custom I'm saying cabinet. I basically am building these out of nothing, and so I'm using 3/4 inch material, and my 24-inch level doesn't fit in the spaces I need to check. So the 9-inch is great, and it's also, I love the magnetic feature, you know, and it's really cool in a situation where you need to free up your hands and clip it on. And it really, this level, it's so lightweight. Even if you just find a nail in the wall, it's going to stick to that and let it hang from there, you know.
I've even added I will tell you that I have cheated and have actually added little strips of, magnetic metal underneath door frames and other such, so that I literally could just walk by and go slap and just stick it there. Yep.
You preemptively magnetized the doors.
I did.
Well, the other thing about this, in a pinch, if you're trying to find a stud and you don't have your trusty stud finder with you, this thing, just run it along the wall. It functions exactly like
you'll feel it. You'll feel it
buddies.
tug on that nail. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So, but super handy. It's always good. There when it comes to levels, one size does not fit all. But I would say, if you want to have something in your arsenal, get yourself the 9-inch here. Get yourself a 2-foot, and then nothing wrong with having a 4-foot or maybe even a 6-foot level, just to get that overall feel.
I have D, all of the above.
yeah, to check it out. So, all right, well, pretty straightforward. The must-have item of the week, a 9-inch magnetic level. But on a more pressing matter, okay, well, we've skated by so far this year, you guys, but I feel like we have some cold weather on the way. Finally,
we do.
Okay.
We do.
Well, this morning it was the old bit of all the roofs in my neighborhood were frosted. My windows were frosted when I got in the car. Well, Allan, this is a great day to step back before the sun comes out and gets rid of that frost. Go walk around the house and check your roof. Check the frost on your roof.
Absolutely.
What are we looking for there?
Okay, so here we go. We're going to be talking about the R factor of your insulation.
Talk to me.
Okay, the higher the number, the better the rating. That's why they've got it. And if you are in an older home, or you're the second or third owner of this home, insulation has a way of getting unfluffed, packed down,
moved by
squirrels, raccoons, critters,
Yep.
Teenagers. You have no idea what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, here is the real thing. If your roof is properly insulated, you should have seen frost on it this morning, because that means you're not having a lot of heat escape through the roof.
And you should see it everywhere. If you see this rectangular area where it's all melted.
If you have one of those, what I call a bare patch, that means when you get in the attic, I can just about guarantee you're going to find the one spot where your pack of insulation has come loose or something has affected it.
Right.
So is that a similar logic like with cars as well? It's like, it's all right if you find frost on the top of your car, because it means that it's air, it's got nothing escaping, like in terms of air.
Well, the thing is, there's no heat going on in the middle of the night in your car, so I don't know if that's okay. It might be that case if you're driving and it's the winter time, I suppose.
All right. Well, what you're looking for is how to black out the windows and look for leaks, and we'll get to that in 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Because it's similar with the roof. If you will go upstairs, and if you are worried about leaks, if you are, here's what happens this time of year. We're gonna cover about 8 topics together. They're all
let's
related.
get it, man.
So all right, this morning you had just light frost. No big deal. Nothing really serious to worry about. It's not doing any damage to your roof. It is, however, trying to let you know where the heat is escaping and where the heat is moving in your house. Because if it is moving up and out through the roof, aka the roof insulation is not where it needs to be, then you should have a very dry and happy roof this morning instead of a frosted roof. It's happy for the roof, not for you.
Right.
What you need to do, just as quick as you can, get that roof properly insulated. It will shockingly affect your electricity bill.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that happens is occasionally somebody didn't tie a duct down well enough, or somebody walked through an attic and kicked one time, and you now have a duct open in the attic.
Right.
You could be perfectly well insulated, but you are also now heating the attic.
Right. Right.
Now, this may be great if you've got a lot of exposed pipes and you don't mind a really high electricity bill. But if everything is wrapped like it's supposed to be, you really don't want that duct open into the attic. And Joe, I got to tell you, that happens more often than you really would think. You're like, oh no, nobody goes in the attic. Nothing could have ever happened to it. We find those things loose all the time.
Because you go up to get your, for one thing, a lot of attics you can't even stand up straight, so you're bending in weird angles. You're grabbing things and you grab that box of Christmas lights and you banged into the vent or a pipe or something.
Well, they also get old and they're only held on with duct tape, and there's air pressure in them. They're blowing against, air is blowing into your room, and it can blow a tube loose.
It's kind of like having a slow leak in your tire. You could have a slow leak, and then every day you got to go to the gas station in the morning, pump it up, or just fix the thing and make your life easier. So it's like, but yeah, stay on top of that. This is a good day to diagnose your frosted roof. So, all right, speaking of serious home situations, we had some torrential rains this week, and we're going to talk about the fallout when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And boy, I literally just finished 10 seconds ago. I got something posted. We're getting ready to discuss, well, actually not getting ready. We are going to discuss. We had some torrential rains this week, and if you were affected, this would be a good day to chime in and get in touch with us. But it affected us in kind of a minor way, Allan. It wasn't a life and death. It was just more of a minor inconvenience, you could say. But in our neighborhood, I don't know how long it was lasting in your neighborhood, because I know the storms moved and all that. But we had a good hour or so, probably an hour and a half period where it was just coming down, man. Happily, my Big M roof didn't even bat an eye. I mean, the roof was fine. There was no issues with the roof. But I went into the to the bathroom, and I looked at the bathtub, and we had in our bathtub on the first floor 4 inches of water. And it wasn't the type of really horrifying, stuff that happens when you have a mainline drain clog, Allan, if you know what I'm saying. Like there weren't let's just say things from the toilet and everything in there. It was mostly just kind of a brownish, cloudy water that came in the tub. And my thought was, okay, well, the sewers can't handle the amount of water that's coming through or something. But we've lived in this house 21 years, and this has never happened before. So this sounded like a round table situation. And I know there's other, and what happened was, let's just put everything out there. The first thing I did, as I was keeping a very close eye on the toilet, because I'm like, okay, if the wax ring on the toilet fails, it's going to be coming in through there, right? I mean, obviously, water finds a certain level, and I'm thinking if it fails there, that's going to be a mess, because you can't dump the water back down the drain if you're scooping it up and everything. So it's going to be it could be pretty bad, having all that water coming into your home. Thankfully, the last time I changed the wax ring in there, I spent the extra $8 and I got the really good one, the one that's like wrapped in I forget what it's wrapped in, but it's like a rubberized type of thing, and it didn't leak a bit. So I was really thankful for that. Then when the rain stopped, within about 10 minutes, the water just drained and it went away.
Right.
Okay, so but I feel like there's things to discuss here, because I have lots of questions. But so first of all, what was going on? Why did my bathtub fill up with water? So,
well, congratulations, you have now experienced backflow. And
I posted a picture of it on Facebook if you're trying to visualize this. So all right, go ahead. Yeah, backflow.
Congratulations. Welcome to backflow.
Okay.
how do I describe this to people that live outside of Memphis? Memphis is next to a really big river. And if you are geographically challenged, we are on the Mississippi River.
Right.
We butt up against it, and we are on the high side, or what they call the bluff side of the river. Arkansas is on the lower side, or the side more prone to flooding than our side.
Yeah, when the river overflows, unfortunately for people in Arkansas, it goes that way.
Yeah,
and it could go in a good mile or two.
It covers a lot of agricultural territory.
Yeah.
And when the levee breaks, you got no place to stay.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You got that right.
However, Memphis has been built in kind of fits and starts since somewhere around 1860, 1880, around in there.
Yeah.
It's been a village, it's been a township, it's been, one thing or another. Memphis was the second city, I believe, to get sewers.
Really?
Because, quite frankly, we're a swamp.
Second city where? In America?
Yes.
Wow.
Is it because of the yellow fever?
You are exactly correct.
That's right. Yeah, because they had a real incentive to fix that
and
problem.
where was the first Walter Reed Hospital to study mosquito diseases?
That's right.
Memphis.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's still here.
Yep.
It's not operational, but still here. So Memphis has had a long history with trying to move water. We are in the Mid-South, so we have a fair amount of rain flow, and Memphis is fairly well designed to handle the water. The issue is right now, Joe, especially in your neighborhood, you've got a lot of mature trees.
Oh, yeah. And, we still have a lot of leaves on the ground in our neighborhood. And they back up in the drain, the street drains and all that.
Well, congratulations. All that water backing up, if there is any access point between the drainage systems, it can backflow into it.
Okay.
So welcome to 150 plus years of engineering and pipes. I dare say that the city of Memphis has probably got a minor obstruction somewhere in your neighborhood in the drains getting out of it.
I guess here's what I'm trying to picture. So do we have, I really never thought about how the sewer system works. Okay, we live in a fairly flat little area.
Correct.
I would say our street, there's about a good 3-block radius where it's more or less flat, and we're at the flat level.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you go there, down the street, it goes uphill a little. So I feel like water would gather in our area.
Yes.
So the water goes down the sewer. Where does it go from there?
Well,
and why is it coming into my house?
Well, you basically have two sewer systems.
Okay. I wonder if we had a higher and a lower is what we...
Well, what you have is a rainwater sewer system, and you have a solid waste sewer system.
Okay, yeah.
So your solid waste sewer system is the one tied to your kitchen and your bathroom.
Right.
If we were a restaurant, that would be tied to a solid materials trap or a grease trap.
That's why you got to clean out the...
That's why every restaurant has a contract with somebody to clean out their quote-unquote grease trap, and that's to keep the solids from getting into the system and blocking them up.
You just pray they don't cross the streams.
Yeah. I was going to say, you don't want to mix these two...
Congratulations. It's probably what you did.
Okay.
So what you probably have in your neighborhood is a backflow cap is missing.
So it's not in my house or in my... That's what I was wondering.
It's going to be in the system because you probably weren't the only house.
Right, okay.
You're probably house number 1 on the line, but it's somewhere in your neighborhood. I remember years ago, I lived over off of South Mendenhall, and the end of that street, every time we would have a massive rain, we would get our very own fountain from the manhole cover like 20 feet in, where water is just booshing up out of that thing, going, 5, 6, 7 feet in the air.
I'm just reminded of when I was a kid and I went to Buckingham Fountain at Chicago, and they just start playing the national anthem. I just hear that with like your own manhole fountain.
Oh yeah, they're pretty dramatic. Impressive when you see them go off.
Right.
So what has happened is there was so much water that it found a way into your... We're going to call it the solid waste system because it's not the rainwater. Rainwater generally just gets piped pretty much out to the river.
Well, I wondered about that because the water was not disgusting. Like I said, there was just it was
It was groundwater.
it was just it almost looked like water you would see if you had a puddle.
Yeah, it was
Like-
groundwater.
Okay, so
And that's why groundwater got back through one of the preventers and filled up into your tub.
so do we need to call MLGW on this? Because like I said, this has never
would
happened.
give them a call and just
Okay.
let them know that it happened.
All right.
Of that way, if in the event that there is a break between the lines somewhere in your subdivision, they can find it.
Okay.
But you should definitely let somebody know because of a backed line can equal some pretty bizarre incidents.
We don't want it getting worse. We don't need that fountain coming through the toilet in our
Right. And it depends on what part of town you're in, how flat it is, when your pipes were laid. And Joe, you live inside the circle.
Right.
You live inside the 240 circle, which means you're in the more mature part of Memphis.
Well, in terms of trees, it sure is.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause-
those things are fully grown. So
You got some big bad boys, and of a lot of people on the inner circle of Memphis are discovering they also had either clay sewer pipes or even steel cast iron pipes, depending upon who, what, when, and where it was built. So
both of which can get affected by tree branches.
both of which are going to age and are subject to invasion.
Right.
So, and if you've got really, really big trees, they can get into your pipes and let water in.
Okay, well, throw that into the mix for today's show. Like we said, if you had similar issues, or if you were affected by the rainstorm, this is a good day to get in touch and let's roundtable it because we don't want it to be a disaster during the next rainstorm. All right. Well, speaking of disasters, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio, and when we come back, we're going to find out what Allan did this week.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
By noon, I need them 8,000 hens moved into their new cages. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate. But you give them a good shaking, they'll settle down for you.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we're discussing the after effects of this really horrible rainstorm we had last Saturday, and it affected us in a very minor way. It could have been a terrible problem in my house, but it turned into just basically a little minor inconvenience. But hey, before we move on and find out what Allan did this week, I did have one more question about this. So, Allan, my bathtub filled up about 4 inches of water. We mentioned that it's right next to the tub, or right near the tub is our toilet. And my immediate concern was, is this thing going to breach through the wax ring? Which it didn't, because I actually spent a little extra money and put the good wax ring in there last time I did it. But I do have a question, because I'm picturing my mainline drain, which in the past we have had it clog up. Not since we've switched to single-ply toilet paper, though. Ever since, we're going on over 5 years of not having it clog up. However, when I imagine the mainline drain, when you're running normal things through the mainline drain, well, the top, I'm imagining the top of that drain probably rarely gets wet. Am I correct? In other words, the water's running down the bottom of the pipe and it leaves, but how often do you flush so much water that it just fills the pipe? And you know what I'm saying?
Every time you pull the handle.
Does it float? Because the pipe is
there's
only,
plenty of-
about 4 inches in
Right,
diameter?
there's plenty of water to get to the top of it. My number one concern, though, is the simple fact that water came back into your system, and as soon as the rain abated, the water pressure let off and you drained out completely.
But what did it leave behind is what I'm wondering.
It left behind groundwater. So, I mean, it brought in groundwater. It left behind groundwater. It didn't leave anything behind This wasn't an actual flood, so you didn't get paint or your neighbor's sewage and that kind of stuff in there.
No, but when you're talking about groundwater, I mean, I could see little bits. I mean, if you're talking that, it could be little granules of dirt and things that are gritty and things that. I guess what I'm wondering is, what do I need to do now? Because part of me was like, wow, did I just get a free flush out of my mainline drain, or did I get?
You might have
something that
you might have, or it might have. Well, again, it depends on the opening and how it got in there.
Yeah.
Okay. If we are discussing that somewhere between the sewers out off of your property, there have been a wide variety of backflow preventions in the works in Memphis, and a lot of times it was nothing more than just basically a one-way cap.
Okay.
So water would lift the cap, and the little spring on it would hold it, and of course, over the years, eventually something wears out. The cap goes down the line, and now water can get back up in there with sufficient pressure.
Okay.
The other problem I'm worried about is, do you actually have a tree root penetration somewhere in your outflow? That is.
If we did, though, I have to believe that because I wondered about that all those years when we were having the toilet. I mean, the mainline drain clogs, but. Like I said, we've over 5 years ago we switched to single ply paper. We haven't had one mainline clog since then. So
and this could just
I feel like that can't be. If we had tree roots, we'd be having clogs regularly. I'm thinking.
Well,
so.
This may just be a one-off. It's just because you had so much water, right there, that much that it managed to find a way in. The idea is just kind of keep an eye on it and see what happens.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I'll do. So, all right. Well, let's switch gears, you guys. So.
Oh, the humanity.
Once again, Allan's week sounded very mundane. I realized it was another holiday week, and maybe you didn't have your have the pedal to the metal, but everything you described sounded very almost like you took the week off. Yet you said somehow you still managed to incorporate power tools into all of this.
Absolutely.
So what did you do this week?
All right. I like how you keep phrasing it as Allan took down decorations. No, Allan does not take down decoration.
Okay.
Allan undecorates.
And a very merry unbirthday to you too.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Absolutely. All right. Here's the problem with decorating. Last year.
I'm amazed you even decorate. You don't
I
seem
don't
like
decorate.
you would care about this.
I do not decorate. However, I have a lot of clients that do.
Clients. Okay.
Yep. Clients, friends, and other such that, go from, a simple display out in front of their business to they've wrapped the whole building.
Mm-hmm.
So you wind up dealing with, I find no matter how small the decoration is or large it is, you wind up with the same problem. And the problem every single year is last year.
Okay. Now I think I'm on.
You're catching on now because you're tired. It's cold. It's wet. You don't want to be doing this. Undecorating, taking down the decorations has nowhere near the enthusiasm of, look how pretty it is as we put it up and light it up.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is moving with the happy and enthusiasm on the backside of this.
Right.
So the backside of this, the excitement and enthusiasm comes from how much easier can we make next year?
There you go.
And let me tell you, if you are one of these people this year that bought the new 1,000-foot or 2,000-foot long string of lights, because you now buy everything in LED,
right?
These are wonderful, but how are you going to store that?
Yeah.
I mean, it came in the cute little box, but how do you put it up? Well, you go down to your local big box store and you get one of those coils that you use for electrical cords.
Right, yeah.
And now you can stick your drill in the side of it, and if you've got 8,000 feet of it strung up down the street, you can kind of turn it on real slow and have it wind it automatically for you as you take it loose.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how you incorporate a power tool.
Oh, absolutely.
Wrapping up lights. Yeah.
But you just, the biggest thing is take your time and constantly think, Next year, I got to work in reverse.
Right.
So put it up the way you want to take it out. And
Okay.
put it out, and I mean work in reverse order. The very first thing you want to set up needs to be the very last thing you put in storage.
So I'm just picturing the scene because we know what type of person Allan Gilbreth is. You show up at people's houses for parties and you start lecturing them about how loose their doorknob is and telling them all the home repairs they've got to do. Kind of like when Ron Swanson shows up at a party.
Only
And then-
fast.
And then they ask you if you'll help them pack up the Christmas lights and everything else. And I could picture the scene. They're probably like, oh, okay, let's not make such a big production out of it. In other words, inside, they're cursing Allan Gilbreth's name. However, next year, when it's time to bust these things out and there's a
Yes.
system and it's organized and they get it done in half the time it took, suddenly you're their best friend.
I'm
So
their
it's
best buddy in the whole world.
Okay.
So the trick is take your time and put the stuff up the way you want to take it out next year. Because you're gonna reuse the stuff. You're not throwing it away and buying all new stuff.
Right.
Everybody has boxes and boxes and boxes of storage. Because if you'll notice your big box store, as soon as your Christmas display went away, what did they put out there? Storage boxes.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's exactly where I was going right now. Because one of the best things you can buy, and they have a variety of sizes, man. Those the ones I prefer, they're like these black storage tubs with a yellow
Yes.
lid, and those things they're I don't know if they're airtight, but they sure seem pretty airtight. You store things, they stack really nice. You could take a Sharpie and label what's inside, and man, those things, you talk about an efficient use of space.
Yes.
And sturdy. You could stack 5 or 6 of these on top of each other.
And they're not open to critters.
Right, exactly. They're going to keep out the bugs. and
The
whatever.
mice and the flying helicopter, equipped cockroaches
Mm-hmm.
are not going to be living in them next year when you go to put them out.
But it's interesting because you say that, and it's true. The big box store, I mean, the ones I've seen, they basically replaced it with storage tubs, which we always talk about spring cleaning. But my experience more often than not is once the holidays are over, that's when people get into organization mode and cleaning mode. We just did. I have a story about ours after yours, but
Well,
we purged.
Well, speaking of that, there was an honest to goodness trailer trip for an hour, completely loaded with brand new filled boxes of decorations.
Yeah.
Off to a storage unit and I mean it
A
was
storage, boy, that's hardcore. They had a lot of.
well.
Holy smokes.
This particular building has a lot of how they like to decorate the building for the holidays. And the big thing was this year we went and took the trailer and got a trailer load of those exact boxes.
Right.
And then I became, Allan the taskmaster about how it came down and how it went up. And next year when they do this, it is all clearly labeled. It is all neatly put away. And next year, and trust me, the crew I was working with was thrilled to be doing it like this. Because next year, it's going to take a third the time that they
Exactly.
went through this year.
Right, exactly. So
So
I mean,
it's
there is something to be said for that.
A lot of stress removal.
Okay. Well, we hope we're removing your stress this Saturday morning on Tool Talk Radio. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the New Year's purge.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Dying tickles.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the weird Max over there behind the glass.
That reminds me of when I got electrocuted by
No
that
kidding.
oven cord.
Yeah, your fascination with Ralph Wiggum. I don't know, man. Hey, but if you're just tuning in, we've been talking about a lot of stuff. Allan was vindicated once again. When we were doing our show prep, his talking points sounded pretty lame and mundane to me, but actually they're pretty relevant and timely. And I hate to admit it, but it's you're making some good points today, Allan. Real quick though, we just want to say you did a you did a little we did a little PSA about torrential rains here in Memphis and some issues homeowners might face, like I did. And you said because we had my bathtub filled up with a little water and then it drained and whatever. But you said that it was a failure of what part? It was called.
It's probably a sewer check valve.
Okay, a sewer check valve, which you said it'll let water in, but it's not going to let like
tree branches,
debris and garbage and stuff.
And stuff like that in.
Because like I said, the water was pretty. It wasn't bad. It was just
it was just
cloudy.
groundwater.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I'm gonna talk to MLGW and say we might have a faulty sewer check valve going on here. So all right. But this week it was the New Year's purge, and I really relate to that. We had a purge at our house that I'll tell you guys about in a minute. But Allan, am I wrong? Here in the Mid-South, we don't wait for spring to do our spring clean. I know myself, we get really motivated when the new year rolls around. Well, and if you go to the big box store, like you said, it's full of storage tubs and everything. So.
Well, you got a couple of things going on. One, you rearrange the house to make room for the decorations.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, you move things for the tree.
You got to put the tree in. You got to do this. You got to do that. So you did all of these things to kind of rearrange stuff. And then as it begins to suck back into place, as you take out the decorations, the urge to clean under, around, and behind things that don't normally move during the year happens. And for myself, I actually caught myself yesterday, as a matter of fact, going, why do I have this? And I mean, there was just boxes of old, and I'm like, why is this here? Other than I boxed it up 20 years ago, and it's still sitting there in the same box in the same spot.
Yep.
It's time to go. It is time to go. If I haven't touched it in this long, it just needs to bite the dust. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny you said that, because here's where I want to piggyback on that. So, I think I told you our daughter moved home for a bit, and she brought her stuff with her from Knoxville. So where did it go? It went in the garage.
Right.
Well, now I told you, if you've been listening to Tool Talk for a while, you know that my wife is suddenly gaining a big interest in working with tools. I bought her a Sawzall for Mother's Day, and that she's been chopping away in the back. Well, as a result, Allan, now I told you back in the day, the garage was my domain. Well, now it's suddenly my daughter's, mine, and now my wife's domain, and she doesn't like the state of it because it's like, and we started the purge this week, and it got addictive, and it was exciting at the end of it though. But we were asking ourselves the same thing. It's like, okay, we've had this box for 20 years. Nothing. I mean, it's like, okay, we paid money for these things, but we are literally never going to use this stuff. And we between the stuff that we donated to Goodwill and the stuff that was we just tossed it, and then the stuff that we put and a big shout out to Morgan Bohannon for letting me use the Cumulus dumpster here. I called him and I said, can I throw some of this out? I bet you we filled up a half of a dumpster worth of stuff that we got rid of in our garage, and it was the most exciting. We had all this open space, and it was really exciting. It's like, wow, there's no substitutes for just having some space.
Now, well, let me flip the script on you. You said, well, we kept it because we paid for it.
Exactly.
Now, flip the script around and think about how much have you paid to store it?
Oh, now that's it. Okay, what do you mean by that? I think I know where you're going. But.
All right. If you look at your home like a business, all right, every square foot of a business has a price. You're paying for this. And when you pile junk in it, you are reducing the usable space of your home or garage.
Yes.
This is costly. So how much did it cost you to buy the $5 box of Beanie Babies at the garage sale? And 25 years later, they're still sitting there in that box where you could have hung something more useful. You could have done something with this space. You got to think of it in terms of what is the storage of this junk costing me? Because remember, you're heating it, you're cooling it, you're storing it, you're providing it space. Not only that, what could else be living in it with you?
Yeah.
Because especially in a garage.
You know what it reminds me of exactly? Okay, so I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan, and you probably know this story, Alan. So the very first Sherlock Holmes, it's called A Study in Scarlet, when he first met Watson, and they were talking about things, and Watson was observing that he has this minute knowledge of certain things, and then other things he's just completely ignorant of. He was marveling at the fact that Sherlock Holmes didn't even know the the heliocentric principle of the universe, how things rotate. He couldn't have cared less about how the solar system worked. And he said, he told Watson, he said, well, I consider my brain to be like an attic, and I only fill it up with things that are useful because I want to be able to reach them conveniently when I need them. So he learns all this detective stuff, but he couldn't care less about outer space or whatever. And I thought, so he says, I'm very conscientious about what I put in my brain attic. And I was like, there's a kind of a lesson there, because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's not only that. My wife said it stresses her out. Clutter is it's stressful. Open space is, it's latent potentiality. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
And so there's something to be said. That's probably why there's such a big minimalist push these days. You go to Max's house, talk about a minimalist. You could probably pack up everything you own in like 5 minutes.
I was very struck by this one monk or itinerant preacher that he said that he could fit his entire life in like 2 airport travel cases.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, so I don't know, man. It's like there's something to be said for that. But it's interesting what a exhilarating experience it is when you just get rid of stuff. When you're honest and you admit your lifestyle, like you said, Alan, you just say, get rid of it.
The biggest thing to remember is every 5 to 7 years, you are entering a new stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
You are not the person you were 7 years ago. And that is true every 7 years, because if you think about it, 7 years ago, you had a 1-year-old. That is a whole set of demands.
Right.
Well, 7 years later, you've now got an 8-year-old that has nothing to do with what being a 1-year-old was like. And then 7 years after that, now you got something in the middle of its teens.
Right.
Which is nothing like the previous two, but yet you still have junk, leftovers, and accumulated hubris of every one of these stages. And if you kind of keep your life moving forward, that means you're going to be jettisoning some stuff off the backside. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to collect things, you're not going to have a hobby, you're not going to have that kind of stuff. The trick is just the accumulation, I'm going to call it the sediment of your life. The stuff just kind of settles on you, and you're like, oh.
Well, my wife's friends have this policy of if they get something else has to go. If they buy a new pair of shoes, another pair of shoes has to go. I'm like, okay, that's very disciplined, but maybe that's not a bad way to go,
all things within temperance and reason, but yeah, there is nothing quite like recovering a big spot in the house.
Well, if you've undergone a purge recently, we'd love to hear from you. So, but speaking of purge, hour 1 of Tool Talk Radio is in the can. But stay tuned; we have a lot coming up, including our great moments in building history.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, among other things, we've been talking about flooding, organizing, purging, Sherlock Holmes, and the fact that today is National Hypnotism Day, which I I'm curious. I've never been hypnotized, as far as I know. Maybe if you were, I don't know how you know it, but
It'd be very interesting for me to discuss the origins of hypnotism because it actually is a little bit more of a recent phenomenon than you think.
Oh, it is. I thought it
In
went
terms
back.
of its modernization,
Okay, give me the quick 30-second elevator pitch. So
1770, Franz Mesmer. In other words, the word for mesmerize.
Oh,
Yes.
I wondered where the word mesmerize came from. Okay.
He advocated hypnotism, among other things. He was kind of out there. He was a woo-woo doctor who, like, used magnetic wands and sifted it across people to help them, and it caused them to, like, go into seizures and shocks and stuff like that.
Huh. Okay. Well, the work of hypnotism is fascinating. I guess it could be used for good or for ill. So, but that's out there. But there's a lot on the table. And Allan, once again, is giving us the what sounds like mundane talking points, but it actually turns out to be very practical and life-changing advice. I just want to say one thing, because you were talking about how you were taking down your holiday decorations and planning for next year. And it's not somebody's home. This is a business. This is a facility. We're talking lots of decorations, so many that you had to put them in a storage facility, right?
Have you seen some people's homes?
Well, that's true.
Oh, my gosh.
I just want to tell you, because if you're out there and you're an event organizer, or if you have any kind of business, I can just tell you that this is just my 2 cents. I run the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, and one of the best things I've done over the last, recent years was we used to store all of the items we needed for the convention. I had about 5 places in my house that I stored them. I put it over here, then in this closet over here, and then in this attic over here. Well, when it came time to set up for the next year's convention, you've been to my house for that. It was, oh, shoot, I got to make 5 trips back and forth because I forgot this. Well, now everything for the convention goes in its own specific tub and its own specific place. And when it's time to set up, I grab those, I throw them in a trailer, bring them there, and it's done in one load.
Yes.
And it's organized and it's structured. So I did the same. I appreciate the approach. You do. It's what I think of it is you're doing your future self a favor. Next year, you're going to be thanking yourself that you did this for
That's
yourself.
That's why I when people say they're taking down their decorations, I always go, no, don't do that.
Right.
Undecorate.
Yeah.
Undo what you did. Go back the same steps in reverse and think about what it's going to take to put it back up next year.
Yeah.
Take the extra time. And I know you're tired. I know it's cold. I know you don't want to be out there doing it, but do it. Because next year, when you're done in a third the time, is when it's kind of like, wow, this was great. Yes, it was.
And let's face it, the older we get, the quicker things come around. Like I'm sure you've experienced this. You feel like, okay, I feel like I literally just took these decorations down, and now here the holidays roll around again. And so it seems like, there's a finite amount of time in a year. A year seems like a long time, but really it's not. So it's like, why? If you save yourself 10 hours here and 15 hours there and whatever, it starts to add up,
Well, it's like I just put away the seed beds, and guess what I'll be taking out in 3 weeks?
Right. Yeah.
Putting the seed beds back out and putting the grow lights up and getting ready to start the plants for spring, which will be here in, if you think about it, about 9 weeks.
Well, exactly. So, but so speaking of weather, let's transition because, now my understanding here in the Mid-South, I know, it's been pretty comfortable this winter. Actually, Sunday is going to be, I think, 60 degrees. However, then the anvil's going to fall, and next week is going to be, we're going to finally get our first sub-freezing temperatures. So what do we want to think about here? What is our home experiencing? What do we want to do to batten down the hatches?
Number one thing, take care of those outside spigots.
Oh yeah, because you might be washing the car in 60-degree weather. You might be. Yeah.
Get them things covered. Do not let them freeze. Recently, I just got the frost-free spigots, and there are several different kinds, but I will freely tell you they are more than worth the investment.
Yeah, how much? I don't think I ever asked you how much those actually cost.
It was about $100 a piece to replace them.
Okay, well,
it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah,
for the versus having water spraying out of the side of my house and it's 32 degrees.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
The number one thing to worry about with pipes freezing is that the frozen pipe is not the problem. It's going to be when it hits 33 degrees, then that ice starts coming off of it, that it becomes a problem. If you think you have a problem, you have a problem. Take care of it. Look at your home really quick. I'm going to go back to your advice a couple of weeks ago about windows.
Yeah.
If you've got below freezing temperatures, leave the kitchen cabinets that have anything to do with water. Leave those open.
Oh yeah, that makes a big. If you ever, it makes a big difference when that suddenly becomes room temperature versus it could be like an ice box in those cabinets.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave those open. That's the easy stuff. The biggest thing is, cover up the outside spigots. Make sure you don't have, an open area for cold air to get in, especially if you have a crawl space.
Well, I wanted to ask you about something because here's the thing. Okay, I'm thinking of these homes that, like we've all seen the, the thing of, okay, we've here in Memphis is a perfect example. We have some homes. Man, I mean, they are down in Midtown. These homes could be 100 years old. They're beautiful homes. However, everybody will tell you if you buy a home like that, somewhere along the lines, all the electricity has to be upgraded. All the electrical has to be upgraded. The plumbing probably has to be upgraded. It's going to have to be insulated, better windows, etc. Well, I'm just thinking if you have a home that, like mine's a perfect example. It's 70 years old. We've had frozen pipes in the past, and today we have this PEX tubing, which I'm becoming a big fan of these PEX water lines because the idea is it looks really, I mean, they don't look strong, but I guess they are, but they're flexible. So if they freeze, they expand rather than cracking.
Correct.
Well, I wonder if you're trying to retrofit or at least upgrade your house, if you could just step by step find the vulnerable spots in your home. Like if you've got a crawl space or something, and start replacing some of your pipes. Maybe once a year you budget a certain amount of money to replace your water lines with PEX tubing. What do you think of that?
I think it's a great idea because I just got through doing some of that a few months ago. As a matter of fact, after this cold snap, I will be back at another property and we will be actually installing the bathrooms. And it's all going to be on PEX. And what is PEX? PEX is the I forgot the word now. It is the plastic-looking tube that is a composite with a wrap inside of it for strength.
And when you look at it, you're like, this is not strong. But it is. You
look at it and you're going,
it's flexible, which is the key.
Yeah, right. This is a plastic tube.
Right.
No, this stuff is amazingly tough. Try to cut some of it someday.
Yeah.
It is shockingly tough. And if you are going to try to install it, you're going to work with it. Make sure you got the proper tools.
Well, you should talk about, you don't just get out there.
Yeah, you're going to need a PEX cutter. You are going to need a proper cutter because if you think you're going to sit there with your little handy-dandy handsaw, you're going to be there for hours. You got to have a PEX cutter.
I don't think I'd be doing the DIY approach on that. I think this is where you budget the money and let a professional that warranties their work. This is not a chuck in a truck.
Right. This is your plumbing.
Yeah.
The two biggest, if you think about the systems in your home, the plumbing and the electrical, modern life is not possible without them.
Right. Yeah.
So make sure they're done properly. But the PEX is a really good idea. I'm really curious to see how well it's going to do. I've got a property that is not going to be, it's not going to have air.
Right.
But it does have PEX water in it right now. So we're about to hit this cold. So I'm really curious to see how well it does.
Yeah.
I will report back.
Okay. Well, and I guess that's the other thing is like how will PEX tubing look in 50 years and how does it age? But I guess it's like anything else. I mean, a copper tube in 50 years isn't all that hot either. So,
No, they're not. I wish they were, but they're not.
Right.
Everything's going to age. It's a matter of just taking care of it, being aware of it.
But Yeah, I'd say just keep things from. With this cold snap coming in, keep the drafts out of your house. It's going to make your bills.
Make sure your crawl space is blocked. I know that doesn't seem like just putting a board over the hole's not going to do much.
Right.
Yeah, it does. Anything that stops the air from moving, that will make a dramatic difference to your home's ability to withstand cold.
Exactly. So, well, speaking of things that have withstanded years of use, when we come back in our great moments in building history, we're going to talk about a structure. Gosh, we're going on 700 or 800 years on this place, the Alhambra Palace in Spain, which is a masterpiece of waterworks.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Hi there. Is there a project you're working on? I know more than you. All right.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
You know, I felt that way, but I've never actually said it out loud. It's pretty rude. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And what a day. I feel like it's been sort of street-level advice today. Street-level conversations, practical, and, useful information, I think. So in a minute, we're going to get to our great moments in building history, which is going to be a really fascinating conversation. Before we do that, though, we want to talk about our good friends over at Brown Refrigeration, who I have to believe are in the thick of things right now. I'm sure they're getting those emergency phone calls of, suddenly that things just stop working. Boy, when they stop working, it's that's not a fun feeling, which is why you should have Brown Refrigeration. This is a relationship. When you have a quality HVAC company like Brown Refrigeration, it's a relationship. Get them out to your home once or twice a year for a checkup, looking over your system and diagnosing and tuning up, and it prevents disaster in the future. And also, Brown Refrigeration works with state-of-the-art systems. So if you're making plans to replace your system, they work with Trane, which a properly installed and properly functioning HVAC system pays for itself over time with lower utility bills, more efficient use, and just makes your life more comfortable. Also, they showcase the Remy Halo system, which we're big advocates of. It basically creates the UV power of the sun to make cleaning, it makes your air as clean as possible, but it actually makes your air proactive. All of the air blowing out of your system is now cleaning every surface it hits on a microscopic level. I wonder if it cleans our lungs out and everything, Alan. I have to believe it does. I mean, it's
less stuff in, less stuff to get rid of.
It's active and it's working. And also, keep those air ducts clean. Get Brown Refrigeration out. They have these nifty little cameras that go up there, and they can check out your air ducts, but it's also important to clean those babies out as well. But we love the folks over at Brown Refrigeration, and they answer their phone. So get in touch with them. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. All right, Max, let's roll, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, if you're just tuning in at the beginning of the show, I mentioned, hey, I'm fine. I'm happy to admit this. Okay, the algorithms know me like the back of their. I watch a lot of YouTube. In fact, I barely watch anything else. I don't watch a lot of TV anyway. The only time I watch it is at night if I'm trying to unwind. But YouTube's got such a variety of things on it. And this video popped up, and it was basically talking about a structure. Let's see. This is, like I said, the Alhambra Palace in Spain, which was built between the 13th and 14th centuries. I mean, this is a big project. It reminds me a lot of, in terms of its location, of when we were talking about the Parthenon, how it was up, it's elevated, like it's designed for protection. I mean, palaces back in the day were elevated because it makes it harder to climb up and invade and everything else. But what it also creates, Alan, is a situation where, well, how do you get water uphill? How do you get water up there? And this was a masterwork of water features, and water is essential. You don't have a civilization without water, and they more or less took this to the next level. But this is a fascinating conversation. So,
well, let's go back in time. Let's get back to the 12th century or so. And we get to meet a guy by the name of Muhammad ibn al-Ammar.
Okay.
And he was the first of the Nasrid emirs. So if you're looking this up, you're looking for the Nasrid era.
Okay.
And he decided he needed a little bitty castle up, kind of a little. Other fortresses had been on this hill before. So, it's one of these, everybody's been here.
Oh, so there may have been some infrastructure there that they could build on.
Kind of like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they didn't just show up and have to start from scratch.
Yeah, this was not a from scratch. This was one of those places it's kind of like, they used to be here, then they were there before them, and they were before them. And so...
and let's face it, this was an area that was constantly being fought over. This was, and so you did think about invasion as part of your building plans.
It's right there in Granada, Spain, which was a great crossroads So we got kind of a busy area. Now, the cool thing is it's mostly made out of rammed earth.
Okay, what do you mean by that? That's important to mention.
That is packed dirt.
That's what keeps Venice from sinking, right? I mean, that's...
Well, the fact that Venice drove a whole lot of tree stumps into the ground and...
compressed it. And,
keeps working above it.
Right.
So here we go. We're setting the earth up. We're pounding the stones. We're building basically an adobe fort. And it's not really designed to take on a cannon or something like that. But it is a great place to look out.
Right, yeah.
The problem is you need water.
Right. Because, I mean, let's face it, back in the day, a strategy, I know this is how they destroyed Jerusalem back in the day. The Romans starved them out. All you do is you camp out around somebody's city, and if you can keep them from getting water and food, eventually you're just gonna beat them by attrition. So you got to have water's a big deal. This is nothing to sneeze at, man.
So here we go. So we're going to go and we're going to build something called the Gate of the Tambourines.
Okay.
And so welcome to the Darro River, which is basically kind of at the base of the hill. And they designed the Romans had been there earlier, of course, and they had built kind of an aqueduct system. And so here comes the new rulers. Here comes here comes the Moors and everybody, and they went, you know what we need? We need a sluice gate.
Well, we better explain what that. And,
so
and just
here we go.
An aqueduct, we should say too, is if you have, because water has to be at a certain level. You can't have it rushing downhill too fast. It obviously can't go uphill, but so you create these gradual, almost like a road for the water with curves, and so. But that's a lot of work, man, and keeping it at the right level and keeping it at the right elevation. So,
all right,
so you got to go back to where the water is actually at a height that's higher than your fortress, which what did they have to go back 11 miles or something? They had to go way back for this. This water source.
But they cheated.
Well, they made it.
Because the time the water got there.
Yeah.
So what is a sluice gate? A sluice gate is the ability to open and close the flow of water. And a sluice gate is still in use today.
We use all these water features.
Everywhere. We use them everywhere.
And all the water features on this castle still work. That's what's even more amazing.
Yes. So here we go. All we got to do is get enough water, not too much, not too little. Let's get the water to where we need it. And they began building ponds and pools. So we're going to bring the water in, and kind of like we would think of a water tank.
Right.
So they would bring the water in, they would bring it to a spot, and either you would build a well to put it in. So you'd take the well underground and into your facility that way, or you would have a nice pond or pool there to hold and store your water. And then they went really crazy on the inside of it because they brought the water in through both a pool and a well. And in the well, they built a water wheel.
Yeah, and you should explain the animals get the short end of the stick on it because you need a horse or an ox or something to basically walk in circles all day, cranking this water wheel up and down.
Yeah, I mean, somebody had to have a job.
Yeah.
So they
PETA
built the
definitely
water
wouldn't have
wheel,
approved of
and they
this,
built a tower around the water wheel to protect it. So with the water wheel in place, basically it was very steampunk.
Well,
you had the little buckets that were strapped to an item that turned around, and it pulled water from the bottom and dumped it in the top.
It's almost like if you can imagine an escalator that's going straight up and down, and there's just buckets and buckets attached to this thing. And if you crank it, it fills up the bucket, goes to the top, dumps it in, and then you have the empty
back
bucket
down the
and
other
just,
side.
Yeah.
And congratulations, you moved that water into another storage pool.
Right.
And it's now 2025, and guess what? All still works.
I mean, throughout the whole thing.
The aqueducts, the gates, the sluice gates, the storage pools of additional rulers through the years added additional pools and gardens.
Right.
And they were all very decorative, but insidiously useful. All right, well, we're going to build a new water garden over here. Well, yeah, but that's tens of thousands of gallons of usable, potable water being brought into the system. And we're just making it look good, but that water is here to keep us alive.
Well, and they just took it to the next level because these were hydraulic, masterpieces, as we say. There were so many features here. So we got the water to the palace. Now we're going to talk about what they did with that water. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Is there anywhere in this town where we could buy a shrubbery?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we're in the middle of a really interesting discussion in our Great Moments in Building History, talking about the Alhambra Palace in Spain, built in the 13th and 14th centuries. It was a big project. It took a while. And we're mostly zeroed in. I mean, we will say this is a beautiful structure. It's a huge tourist spot now. There's a lot to this place besides the water features. However, this is state of the art. This is state of the art technology, and it's a really advanced understanding of water, hydraulics, and the fact that everything still works today is impressive. I just want to. This isn't a tangent. I think this is related. So I told you last week that last Saturday we had that. Or no, I guess it was Friday night, and then whatever it was. It was Saturday. No, it was Saturday night. We had a torrential rain here in Memphis. So, and I told you that our general manager was nice enough to let me use the dumpster. Right. So, okay, well, folks, here in the where the radio station's located, this street, I'm sure you've noticed this. If you can, after a rainstorm, and we're talking, this was a good 8 or 9 hours after the rainstorm. When you drove down the street, because of the way the elevation is behind the radio station and all the businesses here, water just flows out of the ground and downhill and into the street.
Yes.
And what I was marveling at, which I didn't really ever give it much thought before, but I was sitting there, I stopped, and I'm looking at the water because it is flowing. And this is from water that was there 8 hours ago, and it's still in the ground. Well, it's amazing how clean that water was. Right. It's going through dirt. It's going. I'm like, well, this should, in your mind, you're like, well, this should be filthy and muddy water, but it's actually really clean. All this, it's naturally being filtrated.
Yes,
through the ground, which that got me thinking. And I'm just thinking, the ancients really understood water. I bet you they had a filtration system that involved natural minerals like that, and I bet you they had because. When you look at the water that came into the Alhambra Palace, it was filtration. It was pumping. It was high. There's so much involved here because this is water they drank. This is water that
They
was
cooked with, they
decorative,
bathed
cooked
in.
with.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just fascinating when you look at how nature. I don't know. Anyway, an understanding of water builds your civilization, basically. So,
Well, and water and water management is a dramatic of urban planning idea. So as people come into office and people work in the engineering departments and that kind of stuff of your city, wherever you're listening from. For those of you listening up north of us, you're about to get some snow. For those of you listening down south of us, not so much, but you're probably going to be in for some more water. Supposed to have another big rainstorm on Sunday. So a lot of what we're talking about is eminently important as to how a city can drain. This happens out west more often than here. Being from Texas, some cities get absolutely inundated because they only get one or two maybe really big rains in a year.
when I lived in Tempe, Arizona, it was exactly like you're saying. It rained. I think it rained once the whole time I lived there. But when it rained, the streets flooded. You had all this washout. Things were, it was a mess because I don't think the infrastructure was set up to deal with it. And
Memphis, however, is designed to move a massive amount of water. And when you start thinking about water is your city, water is your home, and then you look at a place like this, and aqueducts that they built 1,000 years ago are still working perfectly today.
Right.
They still got water in them. They're still bringing water into the palace. They're still bringing water to the gardens. And as you mentioned, you were asking me off air about why did they put bubbles? Why were they aerating this water?
Well, there was one section of it where they had to lift the water an additional, elevate. I think it was like an additional 15 or 20 feet.
Right.
And so they had to more or less create a hydraulic pump.
Yes.
And the water, they were using a method that aerated the water. In other words, makes the water bubbly.
Yes.
Which makes it lighter.
Which
makes
it
easier to pump up. And they understood that.
Yes.
That's pretty interesting.
And it also provided oxygen filtration to that water so you weren't moving stank, swampy water.
We're talking cleaning particulates almost.
Exactly. We keep talking about these things, but, we have modern ways of doing them. However, if you go back in time, they had their ways of doing it.
Well, they have there was two things that fascinated me. Let me start with the one. Okay, so they had a system, and this was a place where there was palace intrigue, and this was supposed to be a fancy place where they entertained royalty. Well, it was kind of all the business got done when you invited all the royals to you invited them to the steam room and then the ice bath, I guess, because that was a thing. Well, nothing. Okay, so they had this boiler system in the basement, and they boiled the water. And rather than just running the water straight into the steam room to blow steam in there, they took the trouble to make underground coiled up water lines under the floor, which heated the floor. Because we know people in the northwest, the northeast have these heated floors. Well, that idea was 700 years ago.
Yes.
Then it would come through the wall and up to the ceiling, and it would blow steam out. So what I liked about it was the multi-purpose use of They took boiling water to heat the floors, make steam, and they got a lot of use out of this one.
Which is crawl spaces, modern plumbing, modern HVAC, modern heat and thermal control. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the thermodynamics of the materials you have to use.
Because it was marble. They had to, right.
Yep. So welcome to so many things we take for granted today.
Right.
I have a friend that has a marble bathroom. And that bathroom is fabulous 9 months of the year. Next week, that bathroom is not so marvelous.
The ice toilet.
It is the Ice Queen toilet of Narnia.
Right. There you go.
But for 9-10 months of the year, though, this thing is absolutely glorious because it's not hot.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not hot naturally because of the natural tendencies of marble.
Well, the thing that's,
welcome to everything these guys were thinking of 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, the thing that fascinated me more than anything, and this structure, this thing still works. And keep in mind, we're talking 700 years ago. They have in the middle, in the very center of one of the courtyards, they have basically, it is a clock fountain, and what that is they have 12, I believe, lion statues, and once an hour, as the new hour rolls around. So if it's 1 o'clock, there's one lion with the water coming out. Then at 2 o'clock, the next one, and then you get to 12, and then at 12, when midnight rings, then the system drains itself and it starts all over again, and it's completely automated. And you're like,
Yes.
Okay, well, when you look at how they do the once an hour thing, it's actually a pretty simple idea, but so they had this basin of water with 12 holes that were spread out almost in a spiral shape. And so one hole is at the bottom, then the next hole is at maybe 5 inches above, whatever it is, and it staggers its way up. But I'm like, okay, well, that's actually a really simple idea. You could make your own clock fountain with a pump today. However, the fascinating part to me was the fact that they had a system where it drained once this thing filled up, it got so full, like a toilet, almost, you could say. It had these interior S-bends where it got to a certain level and it just drained itself, and it flushed the water down the drain and went to another part of the palace and then started filling up. It's really interesting, man. It's just fascinating that they understood all this and that it still works today.
And somebody stood up late one night thinking of that, going,
and that person must have got
just right.
Yeah. And hopefully they got a raise. I don't know. I mean, some of these old workmen, they, didn't always go well for that. Like, but that it's a really cool rabbit hole to go down. And I mean, it looks great. And, Max, I know you were interested in some of the other features. We mostly talked about water, but
I was just more curious about like the architecture itself, because I just am a big fan of like the Muslim design of architecture, like the fact that they incorporated geometry and calligraphy, which is a little bit more of a subdued version of like iconography, like we just talked about the Notre Dame Cathedral. It's a very grand and ornate, but there's a sort of, I would say that Muslim architecture kind of utilizes the beauty of nature and its work as opposed to trying to use something that's sort of like against nature, so to say.
It's sort of odd when you look at the Alhambra Palace. It looks ancient and yet futuristic at the same time, if that makes sense, in terms of just maybe because there's star patterns, there's the architecture. I don't know, but it has a unique aesthetic.
In modern convention design, this particular palace has quite a bit of white space.
There you go. Which we were talking about earlier. Just nothing like open space.
Plain old, good old-fashioned open space.
Okay,
yes.
Well, there you go. So it's a great rabbit hole. And Alhambra, in Spain, very interesting rabbit hole to go down. There's some really good YouTube videos on there too, so check them out. But guys, we got a lot to get to. Well, we'll see how much of it we get to, but stay tuned and fasten your seatbelts, folks, because we still have more Tool Talk Radio coming up.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation, and he is most displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
My mic on there. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass.
I think the Emperor's displeased with me.
Yeah, no kidding. We've covered a lot today. I'm not going to recap everything, but it's been kind of wide ranging, and we're talking among other things about temperatures, which are about to change here shortly, and how that affects woodworking. We're going to get to that in just a second. Before we do that, though, we want to talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. What's interesting is last week we were talking about these torrential rains. Jay gets out of here, and within hours, we are talking some of the worst rain we've seen here in really
in a
maybe
while,
years.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
been a long time. So I have to believe Jay has been getting many, many phone calls about people's situation. And if you did live here in the Mid-South during these rainstorms, it's a week later. It doesn't mean that you're off the hook. You might want to get up there. There's some areas to check, and there's some areas probably to be concerned about because you're not going to know about it till the next rainstorm comes in. So if you have concerns about your roof, I would say it makes a lot of sense to preemptively contact Jay Hill about your situation. Jay is a GAF Master Elite roofer, but he's also all about the exterior protection of your home, from roofing to gutters to siding to windows. These things all have to work harmoniously, and they have to work together. And these are systems. They're designed to look good, but the big part is how they function. And you need somebody that is a qualified installer. Jay also handles all types of interior remodeling, except he doesn't like to do kitchens. I don't really blame him. That is a major.
Kitchens and bathrooms are a specialty.
Leave it to the kitchen and remodeler. So, but if you have any remodeling needs, they can handle that as well. And what also sets Jay apart is the fact that he is a former insurance agent. And so, if you're in a situation where you might have damage to your home that you're not sure whether it's covered by your homeowner's insurance, Jay should be the first person you call, because in a situation like that, you need to understand you need to understand the situation before you contact your homeowner's insurance company. So Jay will come out. It's a free consultation, and if there is damage that seems that will be covered by the homeowner's insurance, he becomes your advocate, and he takes what could be a very distressing situation and turns it into a really great situation. And he's going to say it's going to save you thousands of dollars. We love Jay Hill. We love the business culture, and we love his great attitude of optimism and energy that he brings to every project. And he also encourages you to call him directly. You can call him at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Well, the last couple weeks I've been more or less building cabinetry from scratch. I'm using 3/4-inch plywood, wood trim, even 1/4-inch plywood for some of the backing. And Allan, I think it's important to discuss. We talk about this a lot when it comes to flooring, especially with some of the pre-finished hardwoods and things like that. Of working with if you buy flooring, you don't just stick it in the freezing cold garage and then say, okay, today I'm going to put the flooring in and then put it into your home, because now you're suddenly taking it from two different temperatures, two different humidity levels, and depending on what the weather's doing, it's either going to expand or contract. So anytime you're working with any type of wood and you're interior wood, it's really important to let that wood acclimate, and that goes for your wood trim, your plywoods, everything. So I wanted to mention that, and why is that so important? Like, we're talking, they can expand and contract substantially.
We'll look at your home and go, all right, your house moves.
We know that
the house is not a rigid substance. The wind blows, temps change, you hear creaks and pops, and your house makes noises and all that kind of good stuff. And that is because wood is basically a living tissue.
It expands and contracts. It's like pulsating, like the blob or something.
In a tiny way, yes.
Yeah.
You are the hugest proponent of do not seal up a deck.
No, I don't. Yeah, exactly. Leave it. Let the wood be the wood. It's going to expand and contract and drain and evaporate and let it do
absorb
its thing.
And so welcome.
And I stand by that, Allan. I told you I visited a home where I built a deck for them, and it's getting close to 28 years ago, and that deck is in perfect shape. We didn't put one bit of sealant on it, so I stand by that policy.
So you're a huge proponent of this.
Yeah.
So understanding the materials that you're taking into and out of an environment, and understanding the length of time it takes to adapt to that environment gets really important.
Well, that's another good point. Don't just say, well, I brought it in yesterday. Give it a couple days.
It's not even close.
Well, if you've got a stack of wood, think about that. If it was outside at a lumber yard, or if it was in a freezing cold situation, maybe it was in your garage for a month before, and that wood, getting the warm air to penetrate into that stack of the interior, and that takes a while. So,
this is, sometimes it doesn't make a big difference, but when you start talking about precision flooring, especially tongue and groove, stuff that is supposed to clip together perfectly and nicely and lay nice and flat, it makes a huge difference.
Oh, I'll tell you, if you have a 1/16 of an inch gap on a pre-finished hardwood floor, you see that's all you're looking at is that big gap. So I did want to talk about that, and I also wanted to roundtable something with you about plywood, because all plywoods are not created equal, as we know. So this one project, there's a certain area of this project where it doesn't necessarily require that I use. Let's just face it. You can go to the big box store, and the plywoods could. I'm using 3/4 inch material. You can get a construction grade sheet of plywood for maybe $45. When you start getting up to like the interior, the birch plywood and stuff, you're talking over $100 just for a sheet of plywood.
Yes.
But somewhere in between, they have this thing called sander ply.
Right.
Okay, it's functional, but you should be aware, folks, it's not just the surface of this that's different, it's the interior as well. This stuff is much more prone to splitting if you put a screw in there. And why is it failing like that, Allan? Like, why is it weaker, actually? So,
well, you have A, the density of the wood they started with. B, you also have the rosins that are being used to hold it together.
Right.
So when you are talking light, you are talking faster growing pines and that kind of stuff. So it's a thinner, lighter wood. It's not going to be a hardwood mix. And then you start talking about the type of glues and rosins that they put on it, and it's just not as heavy. It is designed to be a barrier, not necessarily load bearing.
Yeah, for certain things, it's great, but it's just you gotta choose your plywoods carefully, because there's a big difference in quality and strength and all that. So, and how much they might warp. Let's face it, construction grade plywood is way more prone to warping.
But it doesn't care, because it's going to be usually compressed, and it's going to be affixed on a wide number of areas.
Right.
Now, when you get into making furniture and you're looking at larger areas and you don't want any warpage at all, you're looking at specialty type of wood.
So choose your woods carefully. So I don't know where the time went today. I have like 15 more pages of notes here, but we'll just have to save it for a future episode. So you've been listening to another dynamic episode of Tool Talk Radio, but it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.